Okay, we're going to talk about some topics today. Shelter. Okay? They eventually had to come with bulldozers and knock down Fred Flintstone's house. His grandpa probably built it. He passed it off to Pebbles. Pebbles passed it off to her great-great-great-grandchildren. And then we had these people that came up with an idea that we should build our houses out of matchsticks and cover them in flammable material. And make it out of material that, because it's decomposing, the insects are going to enjoy it. Make it also that if it gets wet, like if it gets too wet, that it'll probably be ruined. Let's also make it really, really expensive, right? Because that's how shelter should be. You should be paying to exist. Every night that you want to sleep securely without the risk of, I don't know, an owl plucking out your eyeball in the middle of the night, or a burglar coming and stealing your clothes, you should be paying for that. Because humans are smart enough to do that, and we're the only ones on the planet that agree to it. So, shelter. Every animal on the planet has shelter to its needs, except the human. And sometimes in a city, or sometimes in the country, they might find a person that's willing to put them inside of one of those flammable boxes that's highly susceptible to damage and and is expensive to maintain. And in nature, they might be able to find a cave, right? More like Fred Flintstone used. And we start to ask ourselves, like, well, is what he's saying really true? I was in construction for decades, and the way that we are building houses doesn't make sense. We're putting them up off the ground, first off, in a lot of places, at least like this far. And then there's vents to keep it from, rotting away, because it would just rot away if you didn't have the vents. So then you're actually protecting against hot or cold on all sides of your home, underneath your floor, your walls, and your ceiling. The heating systems that we use heat the air, that as soon as you open up a door, the air goes away and cold air comes in, so then the heating system has to turn on again. And if you keep things heated to a certain level, they can hold their temperature for a while, like mass. And that's why Fred Flintstone, he used rock, because rock is mass. And if you heat this rock up at night, or during the daytime, or like on top of a fire, and then you put it somewhere overnight time, in the morning time it will still be a little bit warmer than everything else around it, right? Because that's the way mass works. Once it gets warm, it takes a while for it to cool down. And so that's the way people, like used to build houses, is when the sun comes out in the daytime, it starts to warm up the house, but then as the sun goes down, or it goes out of our view, the house is still warmer than the air around it now, and so it starts cooling down. But it does it slowly, because the walls are really, really big, and they're heavy. And we have this great thing, gravity, that when you, I'll guarantee you, this natural law works. So right now, when I let go of this, it's going to drop straight down. Right? You knew that. I'm being a smartass. I'm just going to go into a little bit on each of these topics, so that way we can have talk. We can talk. You can comment. You can make a video in saying, hey, in response to this, There's a lot of ways that we can come together to recognize problems, and with the expectation or the idea that everybody has a role here. Somebody has the right answer. And if my answer isn't the right answer, I hope that somebody else that has that right answer says, you know, Rob, I like what you had to say, but what about this? And I'd say, oh wow, I never even thought about that, because there's things you just don't even know that you don't know until you know them, you know? And I may know a little about a lot of things, but I surely don't know everything about anything. So I'm open to what other people have to say, so that way we all can come together. And I mean, you know, because I know I don't have all the right answers. Um, I've purposefully remained basically uneducated, and it seems like everybody, not everybody, many of the people who are trying to teach you things, they're not displaying the happiness, the success, the zest in their life to make me want to believe that what they're doing and they know is working for them. Because I mean, I'm basically, you know, pretty happy all the time. I mean, even though there's a lot of shit going on, the TV brings it right to our experience. You know, and we have these phones now that we can take anywhere we want to go. And everything that happens anywhere in the world is being brought right to you right now. Oh my God, people are dying. Yep, dying, dead, 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 dead. Did you know that? Holy shit. People are also being born. Boom, 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 boom. But when do you hear about that? You hear about the beautiful little twins that just were born to the mother that just didn't think she'd ever have children and always dreamed of twins, and now her dream has come true. You know, do we hear about how many people are coming out without any, like, holy shit, I thought COVID was going to be way worse than that, and you know, a couple of days there are people dying. I'm not negating that. I'm not suggesting that nobody has died from that, but we need to realize that it is a small percentage of the population. And in pandemics in the past, that we're nowhere near this of magnitude. Measures like this were not made. So, and we have people making decisions who aren't elected leaders. That's another thing I want to talk about right there. Is self-ownership. So, self-ownership. If you own you, and we're all equal, right? Because I believe that I own me. I don't think that anybody else has the right to tell me what to do with my time, or my body, or the way I should feel, or anything like that. I don't think that I should be subject to somebody else's expectation of what I should do, especially if it's against my morality. I mean, you know, my morality is basically, you know, I got a couple laws that I follow. Do no harm and take no shit. And I think that's how nature works. Because nature's beautiful. And there's nothing wrong in nature. And I left my phone at home to keep it that way. You know, the news is like a noose. You know, something it's killing our view of humanity, and there's so many awesome things happening. I mean, in India, they've got a water revolution going on, and they've been turning wasteland into oases. I didn't even know that was possible. I mean, you know, as a kid, you hear of an oasis in the desert, and I'm like, how's that happen? You know, I mean, how does that happen? Is it just a mirage? No, it's called permaculture. And with permaculture, you reshape the landscape, so the water that you get in that monsoon season stays with the land. It doesn't rush off to form a creek, to form a river, to go to the ocean. It soaks in and it fills up the aquifer. It's adding in a couple extra options to the water on how it wants to be, right? And so it can soak in, it can fill up the aquifer, and then when the aquifer is full, it promotes green ground cover and trees growing everywhere. And if trees are growing everywhere, it doesn't only have to be the kind of trees that make straight boards. It could also be trees that make pears and peaches and apples. And depending upon your tropical or your like your what do you call it? Like a USDA zone, growing zones. You could have limes and lemons and pineapples and uh, peach or orange. Everything, everything. Food can be growing everywhere. Instead of getting it at the source, like that, we've been getting it at the stores, like the way the advertisement says. And to me, that's nuts. Because it's not even as healthy when we get it from the stores. And it's expensive. I mean, somebody somewhere else had to grow it. But since they're really good at growing that, that's all they grew. And since that's all they grew, well, that's called agriculture, which they've been producing a lot of food, a huge quantity of food. And then it gets shipped everywhere all around the world. And then it gets shipped by people all the way around the world. And it gets handled by other people to put it in the stores, and then it gets handled by other people to put it from the storerooms into the shelves, right? And then it starts to decay because it's been handled by so many people. And so it starts decomposing, and then you've got somebody who comes up and picks it up and then takes it back to the storeroom, and then they take it from the storeroom to the dumpster. And then one of my friends, he goes by and picks it up, and and then we give it to goats or we make compost. But the other way of doing it is I've got tomato plants like growing right here, and if I need a tomato, I just go over and I grab it. It's easy, and it tastes a lot better than that food that is decomposing and was picked at least weeks before you're buying it. It's fresh food has an energy about it that store-bought food, it just can't match it. Go to your friend's garden sometime if you don't have your own, and you'll witness the difference in flavor and difference of taste of what you're going to consume. Talking about authority before I went on that rant, right? And if we look at authority as somebody having the right to tell us what to do, that's giving up your self-ownership. Sounds like self-ownership to me, right? But if it's somebody that you voted for, you're wanting that, and that's fine. That I mean, I'm just because I don't want to have a boss doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't. Some people like to be bossed around. I mean, I think they even pay people to do it to them. Dress them up in little outfits and costumes, and they play and they say, okay, you'll be here at this time, and you're gonna do this, and if you break any of my rules, I'm gonna throw you in a cage, and I might even hire people. I might hire people to beat you up if you break my rules, or if they're having a bad day. I won't hold them accountable because, they're just doing their job. I told them to do that, right? So, but the thing is we each have free will, right? And so if you want to play those games, that's fine. But don't make me play them, okay? And don't think that you can hire somebody else to do that to me, because I don't want to play that game. And I didn't vote for anybody because I don't want my will to be pushed on somebody else by force of government. We got this idea that I want to have it a certain way. And if 51% of my people that want it this way win an election, we are going to force the other 49% that didn't win the election to do it our way. But see, that's why we live in a constitutional republic. And it's a pretty smart idea. I mean, it really works because it allows for a democratic process to allow or to promote the will of the majority being what is supported and produced, right? But the key is in that is we have these amendments to it that says, okay, yeah, we can work to the will of the majority, but there's certain natural inalienable rights of the individual that we shouldn't be able to violate to make what we want to do happen, right? Because like one of our rights is freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom to defend yourself, freedom to not say anything, freedom to not say anything, by not self-incriminating, by not allowing somebody else to go through your things. You have that right to say, no, this is me and this is the stuff that I own, I've worked for, I've gathered, and you don't have a right to it. But we're governed by the consent of the governed. That's like when a police officer comes up to you and says, hey, can I search your car? And some people are like, oh my god, oh yes, of course, here, what else, do you want my firstborn? Here's my driver's license, here's my Diners Club card, here's my key to the golf course lockers. So they've consented out of this perception of authority. But a police officer is a public servant, right? I mean, he's working for us to help make sure, like, if I come over, not that I'm going to, but if I came over and I punched you in the nose, you'd be like, dude, ow, that hurt. Why would you be like that? And maybe you're a frail person, right? And so you're saying, maybe I can't go kick that guy's ass. And I don't have a gun, so I can't just shoot him, and he quit punching me in the nose, so I don't really have the right to shoot him anyway. But I need somebody to make sure that guy pays for that, because I think he owes me, I don't know, $5,000. $5,000, and I'll forgive him. Well, that's when he goes to a police officer. He says, hey, Mr. Police Officer, that dude punched me in the nose. Look, here's the blood. Here's the misalignment. I think he owes me $5,000 to make me feel whole. Go arrest him. Well, then that's when he should be arrested. He should be taken in front of a judge. The evidence is examined, and the judgment made, right? And if the guy's like, well, dude, I ain't got no $5,000, and the court just can't say, oh, sorry, dude, he doesn't have $5,000. We can't, get blood from a turnip. Instead, what they would do is they would use our prison systems to rehabilitate, and they would help to make people accountable for their actions. And so, I think $2 or $3 an hour is a fair wage to be paid as a prison labor, because you're not being responsible, so you need to learn your lesson. Allow that person to work through contracts that the prison system and private companies can make to get a cheaper labor source that is a pretty good way to spend your time. You're going to learn a trade, or you're going to learn something, and you're going to be doing things. But but let a person earn $3 an hour for every hour that they work. But instead of them getting to keep that $3 an hour and buy more Hostess Twinkies and extra sodas and tattoos while in prison, how about it goes to the victim? And then once the victim is paid up in full, then he says, all right, don't do that again. Or you're going to go back in there and you're going to pay me $10,000 next time, because this time I was nice. And that's the way life should work. But it's not working that way. We've got a lot of ignorance because we are in an education system that is it's training us how to be very good employees to the corporations that hire the prison laborers to do what they want done to make more money. And It used to be that cars were the best way a car could be made. It was being made that way. I mean, it's like these guys were machinists, and they're precise with their creations. I mean, I think they could have offered a 1,000,000-mile warranty on some of the cars that they said, all right, well, all the cars made on Wednesday are going to be 1,000,000-mile warranty. Let's make sure we're doing it right today. And you sell that car for a little bit more or something. But then, shouldn't everything just have a lifetime warranty? I mean, shouldn't it be created to where it can be maintained, where you're not having to rebuy the same thing over and over and over again? I mean, I've had a lot of cars. I haven't added them up for a while, but around 40 or 50 cars in my life so far. And because I don't buy brand new stuff. I mean, I buy somebody's rig, and then I make it run better, and I fix it up a little bit, and then I trade it for something else that I like more. And so I haven't really had much of an attachment to one kind of vehicle. But a lot of my friends, they've had maybe 6 or 8 cars, but they've cost them money the whole time they owned them. I'm like, I know people who've got a new pickup, and their pickup cost $38,000. Well, then just within a couple of years, they had to replace the turbo on it, and they had a bunch of work needing to be done. So they spent a lot of money, and it cost them money every month to own it. Well, my old truck, it doesn't really cost me anything. I bought it for $1,200 on Craigslist, and I fixed a few things on it, and I've been driving that truck for 2 or 3 years now. And anyway, there's options in how we do things that we should be considering. Our education system. We're going to dive into lots of different topics here. So, our education system. In nature, an animal follows around the parent so it learns how to do life. It plays, and it pays attention when the parent is working, gathering food, finding shelter, learning how to dig, learning how to do all these things. It's paying attention to what the parent's doing, but it also has time to just be playing around and enjoying its life, right? But we've got the idea that they need to go to a box somewhere else with strangers to teach them how to live life, because they can do it better. And they might be able to do it better than a parent can right now, because most parents aren't even in the homes anymore. They're working from 9 to 5, and because the kids' school starts early, they get a few minutes in the morning and a few minutes in the evening, and sometimes the weekends, depending if the marriage is still bound by that, because if not, then they're at one house one weekend and one house the other weekend, but they know their teachers basically better than they know their parents. We've got a lot of teachers who are pushing political ideas on the children, and we got a lot of children failing to recognize that entrepreneurship, self-ownership is a legitimate option to working for somebody else and just being a cog in a machine. I mean, are you going to be the are you going to benefit from the fruits of your labor, or is somebody else going to be benefiting more from the fruits of your labor? Quick story about me. I was a plumbing contractor. I sold my body to other people to do their plumbing. And then when I was younger, I even sold my body to a pimp that would tell me which houses to go do my job, right? And then so I would go to that house, and the plumbing company, they charge $100 an hour. And so when I go to that house, and I want to be a good worker, right? So I knock this job out, and I'm done in 20 minutes. And I write up an invoice, but it's a 1 hour minimum, right? So I write up my invoice. I'm like, oh, $100. The state gets $8.20 of that. We used, this much in parts, and we add all this up. Well, here you go, Mrs. Smith. You owe $127.40 for that repair that just took me 20 minutes. And she's like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm going to send them a thank you letter. Send them a thank you letter, right? Because they're the ones that sent you out as a worker bee for them. And then you go to the next call, and that one takes you 30 minutes. And so you write out the next deal, and that was $118 to Mrs. Basket over here. So in that hour, you just made the company over $200, right? But the employee just earned $25. So the guy doing the work earned $25. The company earned $100. The state earned $16 or better. And the actual person that did it got the 25, right? So then I was thinking one day, because I like to do that sometimes, and I was like, well, gosh, it sounds like I should get rid of my pimp. And so I went in and I said, hey, I quit because I bought myself a van, and you didn't even supply me hand tools. I had to buy my own hand tools to use to make you money. So I'm tired of making you money, and I'm going to make my money now. And they said, ha ha ha, silly fool, you can't do that. You need to have licenses. You need to have insurance. You need to have a bond. You're going to have to advertise. I said, I took out a loan against my house, you son of a bitch. And he shriveled up and he said, fuck, I've lost another slave. It didn't really exactly happen that way, but you get my point. There's parameters that business owners have placed, especially the corporate business owners, because they got money to lobby the politicians. Politicians and scientists, they can both be bought. So they make up a bunch of laws that make you jump through a bunch of expensive hoops before you can enter into business and hire slaves. Right? Good idea for them. For us, it's not such a good idea. Or it's not, well, it all depends. If you want to learn a trade, if you want to learn how to do something, that job that took me 20 minutes as a professional may have taken me an hour before. And so if they have to pay for my hour of labor, the employer, and my Social Security, and my L&I, and my paid vacation, and my health insurance, they're going to be saying, hey, we're not making as much money off of you as we are off of him. So boost up the production, okay? And if you don't boost up the production, you get fired. So you learn to educate yourself quickly, because you don't want to be fired. Because if you're fired, you're not going to be able to afford that big expensive house that costs money every month to live in. Can't afford that new car. It's going to break down. You can't afford that dishwasher that doesn't do it. The washing machine that leaks, right? None of that stuff is any good for very long. And you're not going to have it for very long if you don't keep a job. Vehicles. Vehicles, okay? I drive old vehicles because I like them. They're easy to work on. The parts that I replace on them, I can often get lifetime warranty parts. If some little old lady pulls up next to me and opens up her car and hits my door, it's not a big deal. I mean, the old rigs, you have to hit them pretty hard to even make a dent, but it's probably already even got a couple dents in it. So I'm not gonna flip out on this old lady because she just hit my car. Or if somebody steals it, or if you're not adequately insured, or it can cause a real financial investment. And they're not even designed really well. I mean, we should learn something from NASCAR. I mean, NASCAR, there are some brilliant minds working at NASCAR, and all these different pit crews and all these different race teams and all this stuff. The thing is I don't watch it because they go really fast and they turn left. And then they go really fast and they turn left, and they go really fast, they turn left, they go really fast, they turn left. And I mean, they're going like 200 miles per hour before they turn left. Well, the thing is if they don't turn left fast enough, they smash into a wall, or maybe they're going to lose traction and then they're going to cause a big crash. And I think that's what people watch that for. I think we're a bunch of people looking for death, destruction, mayhem, and chaos. But then these guys, after they play bumper cars with these $200,000 race cars, because everything's all perfect. I mean, it's basically a new engine every time they go to race, right? And after they crash them all up, they open up their little door on the top, because they don't put doors on the sides, but they open up the little door on the top and they go, oh my gosh, whew, that sucked. And they crawl out, and then they go walk over and they have a beer and they have a hot dog, and then they rebuild a new car, because the people that sell the beer and hot dogs, they want you to crash that shit up, so they're gonna give you a new car, and they're gonna say, drive it fast, go faster, Billy Bob. Go faster. I just want to go fast. I built a vehicle. I took an old Ford farm truck because it has a heavy duty chassis, but I didn't want it so long, so I shortened it. And the body on it, I didn't really like it too much because it was really heavy and it wasn't even designed really well. I mean, there was a lot of space that if I'm going over rocks that could have, broken or bent the bottom of the doors or the bottom of the cab. There was just things about it that I didn't like. And so I took it off. And then I put metal on it, and I welded it to it, and I made it kind of like NASCAR does, so where if somebody runs into me, it protects me. It's like a pod around me. And I could flip it over, and it wouldn't hurt it really much. I mean, you just flip it back over, and maybe touch up the spray paint. And I wanted a vehicle that looked the way I wanted it to look, and I wanted it to function the way I wanted it to function, and I wanted it to do certain things, and I wanted it to have a lifetime warranty. And although it was an older truck, and a lot of things were wrong with it, all of those things that I replaced on it, I replaced with lifetime warranty parts. And so then I have a lifetime warranty basically on a lot of the wear parts of my vehicle. And now if my vehicle gets in a crash, there's deflection zones. Because like in martial arts, if somebody punches at you, you don't want to block that with your face, right? And you don't want to let it absorb into your body. But if it misses you, that's pretty good news for you, right? And so in martial arts, what we do is when you see a punch coming, you don't go to it, you go to the sideways, and you might even just bump it a little bit as it's coming towards you, and it misses you by a little bit, and that's good. And that's what my vehicle does now, is if somebody comes towards me and hits me, it's got deflection zones. And so even if it hits me really hard, it might flip me over, but there's a cage all the way around me, and I got my seatbelt on, so I'm just hanging there upside down going, damn, that sucked. And then I undo the seatbelt, and I'm not sweating. This is full of ice. I feel really wet right now, but yeah, because I am. It's hot today. Yeah, that's one of the best things you can do is a wet rag around your neck. Cool the blood going through here. Put ice cubes in here. Cool the blood going through here. Cools the whole body. Anyway, back to the vehicles. If I need to fix something, I know how to do it because I built it. Everybody that sees this vehicle is like, holy shit, dude, what is that? Is it a Humvee? I don't even know. I said, no, it's just a Ford farm truck. I just made it look a little bit different. And now I do it to inspire other people, because if you don't like what the manufacturers are offering, then you should either learn how to do the things necessary to do it yourself, or align what you want to create and find people that can help you. It'd still be cheaper than buying a brand new car, and you get what you want. You know, I mean, if you always dreamed of having a 67 Corvette, but you want air conditioning, and you want power windows, and you want power door locks, and you want remote start, it's all possible. I mean, you can do anything you want when you're willing to create your experience rather than consume what other people have created for you. Because what other people have created for you might serve to make them a lot of money. It might serve to only last for so long, so that way they can charge you that money again. It might not even be in your best interest for your health and safety. I mean, you look at a Prius. I mean, you run into a squirrel, the squirrel walks away going, God, what the hell was that? And the Prius is totaled. And since the airbags pop too, the driver and passenger got broken noses, they're bleeding all over the place, and their $20,000 car is totaled. It takes a little bit more than a squirrel to do that, but not much. I mean, there are wrecking yards full of cars that got in little bumpers, or a sensor goes out, or several sensors go out, or improperly machined items because they're mass produced fail. There's always recalls happening, and the recall is saying that's when the manufacturer finally has enough people bitching about a poor job that they did, that they have to say, okay, we screwed up, go ahead and bring those cars back, we will fix them, we failed. We've been doing this for hundreds of years, or 100 years, I know. But we gotta make more money, and we gotta make it somehow. So if we keep making cars better, you're gonna quit buying them, because they'll last, right? So what else? Let's talk about food. We talked about food a little bit already, I think. Should be coming from the source, not the stores. Yeah, we talked about that. Housing, jobs. We talked a little bit about that too, right? Job. I'm positive. Job is an acronym for just over broke, because that's the way an employer wants to keep you. Because then if an employer keeps you just over broke, it means you're not going to have the fluidity of income to where you can say, you know what, I got $10,000 saved up that I don't even need. I mean, I'm going to make a wager on myself, and I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to start my own business. And if for the next 6 months I don't make anything in this business, I'm going to just keep pushing at that business, and I'm going to keep making it go the best I can. I'm going to give it my all and see if I can pull off what so many other people have done. And that $10,000 I have saved up, I can pay my rent, I can pay my electricity, I can pay my car payment, I can pay my insurance, I can buy my food, I can pay for my electricity, and I can pay for my water, my gas, my trash, cable, healthcare, all this stuff. I can cover that for the next 6 months. But if you are only making enough to pay your rent and all these things, and have a little bit of an entertainment and maybe a vacation every couple of years, you're not going to be able to take that step into business ownership, which is self-ownership. And when you're in that self-ownership in business, that means you can hire other people. Well, for me, when I was in business, I didn't hire anybody. I had a friend that would help me out sometimes, and I'd say, hey dude, if you want to learn how to do this, you could volunteer your time. And he says, I like that, because you're going to teach me how to make my own money. I was like, yep. And I'd usually buy him dinner or something too, and kick him down a little bit, help him out whenever he needed help too. But that's what an apprenticeship is. They come and help you out. They're learning something for free, and they get and they get free dinner. I mean, what kind of better deal is that? It didn't cost them nothing. They could either sit and watch TikTok all day, or they could come out and help somebody and learn and say, man, I learned how to put in a dishwasher today. I learned how to put in a toilet today, and I learned how to fix a P-trap, right? Well, if 2 days later somebody comes up to you and says, God, do you know where I can kind of find a plumber? I need to install a dishwasher. You're like, oh shit, I just learned how to do that yesterday, and it didn't even leak, and it worked perfect, and it's actually pretty simple. So I'd feel confident in doing that. And how about I do that for you and you buy me dinner? People say, well, shit, all right, that's a good deal. Well, now, because he wasn't learning from me, it didn't take learning how to replace a P-trap and a toilet and a dishwasher to get dinner. Just doing the dishwasher got dinner. That's what self-ownership is. We have kids that are going to schools to look on the computer from someone somewhere else for content on what they should be learning. And it costs a lot of money to have the building that they travel to look on the internet to learn what somebody else has to say. And they have these big yellow diesel eating monsters that drive around every day and pick them up and drop them off, and then pick them up and drop them off. And you gotta have different schools, right? So you gotta pick them up and drop them off, and then you gotta pick them up and drop them off, and then you gotta pick them up and drop them off, right? And so the fuel consumption on these diesel eating monsters, these big yellow school buses, those things are expensive too. They're like $100,000 each to buy them when they're new. Well, then they use them for about 8 or 9 years or 10 years, and then they sell them at auctions for like $2,000. So that way they can buy new ones for $100,000. And that helps to justify the school budgets, because if they don't spend that money, they're not going to get it next year. And if they started giving you a tax break because they started being efficient with how they used our money, we would start expecting that a lot more things got efficient, because taxes should go down. They should go down a lot. With time, we should be able to create efficiency. And when we do things locally, we should have transparency and accountability. But we're not doing things that way. It's always more. We have to spend more. The budgets need to be more, so the taxes need to go up. And every time the taxes need to go up, the money in your pocket doesn't go as far. And inflation, speaking of your money not going as far, inflation is when they print money, they put it into circulation in the form of loans, they put it into circulation in the form of incentives and bonuses and $1,200 stimulus checks. Whenever they print money, the money that you have in your pocket is then worth less. It's not that it's worthless, but it's worth less than it was yesterday before they printed another $14 billion, or however much, 100 billion, 100 trillion. Who even knows? Millions, trillions, who knows, right? But they keep doing it. And so you used to be able to, even when I was a kid, there was still penny candy. You could buy a piece of candy. It was just like a little piece of hard candy for a penny. Well, now that I haven't seen that for quite some time, unless it's just some old stuff that somebody found in a back room and they're like, I don't know, fuck, let's give somebody some nostalgic memories of penny candy, The other thing about our shelters, they're in one place. Do you always want to live in one place? I've been around the world twice now, and there's a lot of countries I still haven't seen, and there's a lot of areas I haven't seen. I've been all over the place, but there's so much in each place that I didn't even get to see. And I spent years and years doing that. Now I like to have I have a place that I teach from, but I'm building a module that I can take with me, and it's like, it looks a little bit like a travel trailer, kind of. Looks like an old van body, but it's going to be cool. It's coming together nicely. I like it a lot. It's got a solar system on it, so I can still communicate and have lights at nighttime if I want to read or something like that. Charge up my power tools so I'm not having to stay in the Stone Age for everything, right? DeWalt and Milwaukee, they make some pretty cool stuff, but it needs power. So you either fire up a generator or you rely on that big ball of fire come out and give you some power. But that's how simple life can be. You know, we could have in just what you would pay for a month or two of rent, or if you want something really fancy, a year or two of living in a home, you can have a really, really fancy shelter that drives around, stores all your favorite things, and gives you a place to be anywhere on the planet. And if that one doesn't work anymore for you, like say you bought a motorhome, but now you're like, I've seen everything. I've been everywhere, man, right? You're singing that song as you're driving around. You're like, nope, been there, done that. Yep. Nope. Okay, I want to go explore some islands now. And so then you take your motorhome and you go down to the piers, and there's some dude that I've been over there, man. I've been over there. I've seen these islands there, man, and I've been everywhere. And he's like, God, I wish I had a motorhome. Well, the guy with the motorhome, he says, hey, you've built a pretty nice boat right there. He says, yeah, well, you built a pretty nice little motorhome right there. He says, hey, let's trade. Perfect. I was just looking for somebody to trade with. So was I. That's how it works. You know. Try to do that with rent. How long have you been paying rent on an apartment? What, $1,000 a month? How much is that? That's $12,000 in a year, right? And you've been alive longer than a year, right? You've been on your own for what? 5, 10, 20, 50, 70 years? 70 years you've been on your own. Holy shit. Well, I don't even know what that math is right now. That's like, that's well over $1 million. Well over $1 million that you pay for shelter by living in an apartment, right? Then you had to pay for your electricity every month because that's expensive and you need it, right? Because you got to maintain the heat or the cold or stuff because it's on all sides of you, right? When it's cold outside, it gets cold inside. It sucks the same. With the mobile houses, whether it's on the water or on the land, it's a smaller space, and so it's easier to heat and cool. And like these little sticks that I'm fidgeting with right now, they're available everywhere. I mean, all over the place. Like right now, I mean, forests are burning up all over the world because people aren't going around and picking up all the little sticks and burning them up inside their houses when it gets cold. They just lay on the ground. And so then nature finally says, hey, we got to get rid of this shit. This is dangerous. You know, I mean, what if there's a group of Girl Scouts walking through here and, you know, the pack leader smoking a cigarette, flips it over there in the bush? That's a problem. You're gonna cause big problems here. So I'm gonna try to wait till it's really, really hot. Nobody's out here. I'm gonna burn all this place down. Is it really happening that way? I don't know. But nature only lets us neglect it for so long before it starts fixing itself. And when we've planted forests of straight grain timber, and we haven't been replanting the oaks that give acorns, and the apple trees that produce apples, and the cherry trees that produce what? Cherries, right? because we wanted to have cherry wood floors. Well, the way you get a cherry wood floor is you chop down a cherry tree, and then you chop it into smaller pieces, and then you put it on the floor. And then as long as that's popular, it'll stay your flooring. But then, you know, 5 years, 10 years down the road, people are going to say, oh my god, you still have cherry wood flooring? That is so last decade. That is so last decade. It's in porcelain now. Yeah, porcelain. Yep. Yeah, highly fragile. Stains sometimes. But porcelain. Yep, we're all doing porcelain floors now. It's only $20 a foot. They have financing for that, you know. So you rip up the cherry wood flooring and you throw it away. And then on the way back from going to the dump with your cherry wood flooring, you stop by Safeway and you pick up cherries, right? They're only $4 a pound though. So is the guy, when you're walking out in the parking lot, the bum comes up to you. He says, hey, you got $6 I could have? I'd like to buy some cherries. And you know that cherries are only $4, so he's going to be buying a beer too, so we don't give him that $6, right? Damn fools should get a job. Should be just over broke like everyone else.